from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
8 years ago, I got the biggest and best present ever of my life. After reading me books every night since I was about 2, my mom opened a children's bookstore. I still remember the day I stepped into the warm, lovely place. Sunshine glowed on the bookshelves, and I smelled the scent of books. And I still remember the happy moment my mom held me in her arms and read me a book. In an old house in Paris that was covered with vines lived 12 little girls in 2 straight lines. Time passed, and I grew from a little kid who was often mistaken for a boy to a big girl standing in front of you on this stage. However, the love of reading has been kept unchanged, except that I don't suck my fingers anymore while I'm reading. Having the freedom to read and the freedom to choose is one of the best gifts my mom ever gave me.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to the 26th season and this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, National Reading Month. We have 2 guests joining us to talk more about it. Stacy Lichtai is here in the studio. Stacy is the Senior Manager of Branch Services for the Omaha Public Library. And joining us via Zoom from Monterey, California is Carol Jago. Carol recently served as a speaker for the Nebraska State Literacy Association. She is also a reader, teacher, and writer. Thank you both so much for being here and welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You bet. Stacy, we are going to start with you. I would love your thoughts on that opening video.
Well, first of all, I think it's so wonderful when you see a child that's so excited about reading and all the possibilities. And, you know, I really hope that every child gets that experience, that everybody gets to grow up in that kind of, you get to go and read and explore the stories and just grow to an adult with this love of reading.
So, benefits. There are so many benefits when it comes to reading. We're going to put some of them up for our viewers now. But as we're doing that, Stacy, tell us what you believe is most important.
Well, I reach back a little bit to my prior position. I was with the Omaha Public Schools and I worked in school libraries, and really for children, getting to read is that starting to unlock the world around them. They get to explore the things that interest them, which helps them with vocabulary, which helps them figure out who they are and where they are in this world. It helps them to be kind to others. It helps them to see a place beyond, and it helps them to dream. Yeah. I mean, there's so many benefits.
Not every child is as fortunate as April Q, who we saw in that opening video. What percentage of Americans is illiterate?
About 20 million people in the United States are illiterate, but the low literacy is really the bigger problem. So that are people that I know to read a little bit, but I'm not actually a functional reader, meaning I can decipher some, I can make it through some things, but I can't sit down and read a story with my child at night, or I can't fill out a job application by myself without getting some assistance. So the low literacy is actually far larger.
Wow. So causes for that, Stacy?
Well, I mean, I think you can go back to opportunity. You can go back to, you know, at a time when we're growing up, maybe not having the options or the choices, or seeing others around you reading and enjoying it. You know, sometimes I think we look at reading and we make it be such a graded topic, instead of really instilling the love in children of really sitting down and having conversations about books and reading, and, you know, all the ways that you can enjoy reading that's not just a book, but it's the podcasts, it's the manga, it's the graphic novels, it's all these other ways that we can engage in and around literacy, that everybody has a piece or a path that they can find that makes them happy.
Yeah, and for those who aren't able to find that path, talk about the challenges that they are going to encounter in their lives.
Well, and I think especially now, as everything is really related to how I express myself in the world of technology, how I reach out to others, how I connect. You have to be able to read, you have to be able to comprehend, you have to be able to put those pieces out there. And that's how we connect as the world. And so it becomes harder to find those jobs. It becomes harder to make those connections. You're missing a vital part of the world.
Okay, thank you. Carol Jago, I want to bring you back into the conversation now. You know all too well what Stacy is talking about here. You've actually written a book on this topic. Before we talk about the book, though, what is important to know about Carol Jago?
I think the most important thing to know about me first is that I taught for 32 years in middle and high school classrooms, and that I've been a reader ever since I can remember being alive. And for me, books are a huge part of the human condition. And without books, without reading, and I'm totally with Stacy, it's not just about physical books, it's however you can experience literacy and texts and stories. I think our lives are impoverished.
Okay, I do want to ask you, Carol, because we have you here and you were talking about reading since you can remember. Do you have a favorite childhood book? Do you remember that first?
You know, better than a childhood book, I have a childhood story. I was 10 years old. My mother was going to the hospital for a baby, but in those days, they didn't tell your 10-year-old that that's what you're doing. And they were going to drop us off. I have other brothers and sisters at the neighbors. And I say, you can't leave me at the Unals. I finished my library book. They had to go to the library on the way to the hospital so that I could check out a new book.
Oh my goodness, you are. I have two very serious guests here when it comes to books. I really appreciate that. You're the perfect people to be on today. Carol, I want you to talk specifically about your book. And as you're doing that, we're going to put the book cover up for our viewers. Tell us about this book in question.
But everywhere I was going around the country, speaking, working with teachers, working with students. Teachers were just wringing their hands saying, kids don't read anymore. And in many cases, they stopped assigning books, assigning homework reading. And I felt if that's the direction that curriculum and education is going, it's back to the Stone Age. Democracy is not going to work if we don't continue to make reading and books part of our classrooms. And so I wrote this book with a lot of practical ideas for creating a community of readers inside the classroom. I loved what you and Stacy were talking about in terms of making reading not just for a grade, not even just to do well on an assessment, but for yourself, for your own self-nourishment.
Okay, thank you. Now, you have taken this book kind of on the road, for lack of a better term. You speak about it, and the Nebraska State Literacy Association was fortunate enough to have you. I want to know, first of all, what that experience with the conference was like, and then I'm going to go into maybe audience reaction, you know, when you were finished, maybe what types of questions they had for you. So first, the experience.
The Nebraska State Literacy Association is a chapter of the International Literacy Association, on which I sit on their board. And Nebraska chose to run their convention virtually. And I think that this is an interesting moment in time. I'm here in California at a face-to-face convention, but in many states where teachers have to travel great distances, virtual experiences are really, really powerful. One, because everybody's at home. And so there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of time not just spent on the road. We had an extraordinary evening that really was a conversation. I like to present ideas. We talked a lot about the reading brain in a digital age, because there's so much new research about how reading on screens is affecting students as readers. And not just the pro and con, oh, I like books in hardback, no, I like to read on screen. It's not either or. we need to embrace it all. And so what I always want is to have teachers in a session like that actually do some reading. So we did some reading of Marianne Wolf's book, Reader Come Home, The Reading Brain in a Digital Age, and just made that a starting point for our own conversation and our own experiences.
What types of questions, maybe not just at that particular moment, but just as you are traveling around, what are some of the bigger questions or most frequently asked questions? And maybe more importantly, how are you responding?
Teachers everywhere feel that students are losing their capacity for their attention spans, and they don't have the stamina to stay with longer books. And one of the things that I suggest we need to invite students to think about this for themselves, to think about how by having their phone by their side every minute of their lives and getting a text message every 3 minutes, if they're trying to read, that's interrupting the reading. And so when they go back to the book, they have to start over. And what that causes is it makes reading seem harder if it's constantly interrupted. Now, I work with teenagers forever and ever, and you can't tell teenagers anything. The didactic, nobody listens. But if you invite them, let's try something, just like for an experiment. Why don't you just put your phone in the other room for the 20 minutes you're going to read chapter 8? So let's see how it goes. Let's talk about it. Like, we need to invite young people to reflect upon how the interruptions that our phones and our screens create for us, how that makes it more difficult to do the kind of deep reading, immersive reading that really has made people like Stacy and you and me into readers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, habits are hard to break though. And so for educators, I would imagine, it's more of a kind of a pump 'em up speech that you're giving to people, because it can be defeating to try new things and maybe not have them received in the way that you're hoping. So this is your moment, Carol. Talk to those educators out there who are watching and inspire and encourage them a bit in terms of the importance of perseverance, especially here.
I think the best way to break through, like to students who don't believe reading can be a pleasurable experience, is really to remove a lot of the artificial aspects that classrooms often instill. Think about yourself the last time you read a book you loved. Did you say at the end of reading it, gosh, wish I would have kept a reading log? No. What did you want to do? You wanted to talk about that book. And so to the extent that we can make our classrooms places where kids talk about their books, where teachers talk about, oh my gosh, let me just read this one passage that I just read. It's so great. Like, our own enthusiasm, I think, is infectious.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. While we're on the topic of books, I would like to ask your thoughts, Carol, on book bans.
Well, I think that anything that limits student choice is going to eliminate certain readers. That what they would choose is something that they're interested in. And so I think easy access to books is critical. Books with lurid covers and things that draw them in. When we start parceling off what topics that can and can't, in my opinion, books don't hurt students. But I think of myself at about 11 and 12 years old. I was reading too many books about the Holocaust, and it put me in a pretty dark place as a child. So it would have been good if an adult had said, here, look at something else, but not take those books away from me. Like, every individual, I think, has the right to make decisions for themselves about where they'd like to go as readers.
Okay, thank you. Before we get back to Stacy, I want to ask you, Carol, your call to action for audiences like this one with this particular topic is what?
My call to action is book flood. That every classroom should be full of wonderful contemporary books, that libraries should be open, vibrant places where books are coming and going and kids are talking about what they're reading, because ultimately the best book talks are by other students to other students.
Okay, thank you. That is a great segue into Stacy now and this whole idea of National Reading Month.
Yes.
What is that, Stacy?
So National Reading Month is really this opportunity that we can take as society to stop and say, what is so important? Reading is so important, and to engage in all the activities around it. You know, public schools do a ton of things. In the library, we're always uplifting reading every day. So you'll see our story times, you'll see our book clubs, you'll see just vibrant displays that you walk in and say, ooh, I haven't thought about that, I'm gonna pick it up. That's the exciting time. It is just a time to say, this is important, and we as a society need to treasure it more.
Okay, thank you. And why March for our viewers?
Well, March was Dr. Seuss, his birthday, and that's really where it started from. And I think for kids, March has always been kind of that humdrum month of I'm sort of in the middle, and we really get to activate it out with stories, and we really get to do all the fun things. In schools, it was all about, you know, our guest teachers coming in and reading to kids, and it made it wonderful.
Okay, so hoped outcome from where you're sitting, you've been around books all your life. We have a month to really recognize this. I mean, hopefully people are reading year round, but we do have a month. So as you're sitting there, knowing what you know, doing what you do, what is your hoped outcome for people at the end of this month?
I hope that people realize all the opportunities that they have in our communities to come in and have access to materials. I mean, at one point in history, reading used to be just for the wealthy, right? But we have changed that. I mean, reading is for everyone, and we provide so much access. We are lucky in our state. We have fabulous school libraries in our school districts, but we also have fabulous public libraries. And so we provide that free of charge to our people in our communities to come in to fall in love with reading, and we're there for them. So my hope is that they are coming in, they're telling us what they need, what they want, and we are able to provide that for them.
So big month for you guys. How is the Omaha Public Library celebrating this month?
Well, we are celebrating this month again through those story times, through all those pieces of bringing in all kinds of dynamic book displays, and our book clubs are doing all kinds of great events. You know, we are also celebrating through surveys that are going out to people asking, what do you want to see in our libraries? What would you like to know about our libraries? You know, all kinds of things. Again, our whole point of being here is to serve our community. So we only serve you if we know what you need and you want, and we are here for you.
All right, so here's a question. We'll have viewers out there watching thinking, all right, I'll give this a shot. Let's see, where was that library again? And then they make their way to the library. What changes can they expect to find if somebody's been gone for a little while? Walk us through, paint a picture of the library
these are
today.
not the libraries that you remember of way back where it is quiet and everybody is just sitting in their own and you only get one book at a time. These are the libraries of vibrant book covers. These are the libraries where kids are doing stuff and adults are doing stuff, and you're meeting your community there. You are making connections with others. You are seeing these new ideas explode. You're getting ideas for businesses. You're getting ideas for your next vacation. These are the heartbeat of your community. That's what the library is.
Okay, and they're also, not only will you find books and the technology and all the rest, but you're educators through and through. You have folks come in to do speaking like Carol does.
All sorts of programs. We really are connectors in our community. We are connecting people to that other resource, to somebody who can do that particular thing that they need. We are the connectors of our community.
Talk a little bit about now this area. I mean, we are a statewide program, but when it comes to a city like Omaha, talk about the number of opportunities that just a city like ours has in terms of places we can visit. How many libraries do we have? What's available?
So currently we have 13 locations. One of those locations is just a genealogy and local history room that we have open right now. But we try to cover the county as is what our statute says, is that we are for everyone in our county. We have lots of opportunities, not only in branch, but also online. So there are ebooks and magazines and all kinds of resources that you don't even need to leave your house that you can have access to free of charge.
Stacey, I want to ask you something, because we're talking a lot in this day and age about, opportunities, employment opportunities, career opportunities. Other than what you do, which is a lot, are there things that maybe for folks out there who are looking for something new, something different, they love books, what opportunities does the library have for them?
Oh, we have volunteer opportunities. We have all kinds of ways to get connected and help in your community. Again, we kind of connect to those partners. So a multitude of ways that people can be more connected in their community.
Awesome. Okay, now we're going to take these last few minutes on the program and have a little bit of fun. Not that we haven't so far. I'm going to bring Carol back in, and I just want to ask the two of you a few questions since you are so big on books for our viewers. So the first one, ladies, that I want to ask, and Carol, we'll start with you, your favorite book and why?
Oh, to talk about my favorite book is just like impossible, but how about my favorite book in the last couple weeks? And I would say Orhan Pamuk's Nights of Plague. It is, so I'm a giant Orhan Pamuk fan. He's a Turkish writer, won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And this is a book set in 1900 on an imaginary island in the Ottoman Empire, where a plague occurs. And you've got an island that's half Greek Orthodox, half Muslim. And so it is archaic in many ways, 100 years old, and the themes are absolutely contemporary. And again, for a society, for a world that's just been through a plague, it's human nature. I read to learn. I read because it helps me understand other people and the world. And that's why I love Orhan Pamuk.
Okay, thank you. You stay right there, Carol. We're going to go to Stacey now. Your favorite book and why?
Well, a little secret about me is I really like to read series. So I rarely read a standalone book. I love a good series, especially when there's a multitude of books in that series. My current favorite right now is Louise Penny's Armand Gamache series, which is a mystery series set in Canada. I love how she talks about small towns, how she really just tries to portray that, yes, there are bad things that happen in the world, but there are good people always, and we're always trying to get better. So there's this sense of hope, and there's this sense of community connection. And I think if everybody could have a bakery and a cafe like they do in Three Pines, we'd all just be so happy.
Wow, very good. All right, Carol, back to you. We're going to ask now your favorite author.
Well, building on what Stacey's saying in terms of series books, like I've read every single Daniel Silva book. And sometimes my husband says to me, Carol, do you really need to read another one? And the answer is yes. I love his main character, who is an art restorer, who's also a secret spy. There is so much comfort in series. And I think we need to remember that with children. And okay, so they just want to read one more Dogman book. Fine, just as long as you keep reading.
Okay, great. Stacey, your favorite author?
Diana Gabaldon, who wrote the Outlander series. Because she is able to take both history and a little bit of fantasy and a little bit of realism and just create this world that, again, we're sitting at 18 books, and they're all amazing.
Oh my goodness. All right, Carol, final question. In the spirit of Dr. Seuss and oh, the places you'll go, right? Where has been your favorite place a book has taken you?
Well, again, I'm going to tell you about a book that took me a place just last week, and that's Candace Fleming's book, Polar Bear. And it takes you onto the ice in the Arctic. And it's an informational book, so you learn a lot about polar bears and climate change, but it's also about a mother and her two cubs. And so in many ways, it's a story about love and survival. I read to learn.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. And Stacy, we have about a minute. Your favorite place a book has taken you?
I read a lot of international mysteries, and again, a series, so probably Sweden. And it's interesting because I think for me, I like to read about communities, and I like to read about how communities come together and their connections. And a lot of times in a series, you will see those pieces played out again and again, because it's those characters that are getting to know each other and how that works.
Wow. Okay, talking to Carol Jago and Stacy Lichtai today about National Reading Month. We really did pick the best people to talk about this. I want to thank you both so much for joining us and for sharing your time and expertise, and most importantly, your passion, inviting people who maybe have been away from books to come back to books and just kind of check them out. Pun intended.
Yes.
Not really, but okay. Thank you, ladies, very much. Keep doing what you're doing, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. People wanting more information can go right here to the omahalibrary.org, omahalibrary.org, 402-444-4896. As we close, a look at scenes of KVNO radio as seen through the lens of Lindsay Tagg, a senior at UNO. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at nebraskapublicmedia.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call UNO Television at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.